Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about astrology and the death of Malcolm-Jamal Warner. Sadly, it's been reported that Malcolm-Jamal Warner has died due to drowning. I saw this on the TMZ report online, and there's been a number of other sources online that have confirmed this. They didn't elaborate on as far as the details on, how he drowned or anything, but it's terrible. I mean, Malcolm-Jamal Warner was only 54 years old at the time of his passing. He was going to be 55 in August. He was a Leo sun, Pisces moon, and Cancer ascendant. And I want to be talking about some natal placements and some transits that may have been tied in with his passing. I first want to offer my condolences and prayers to the close friends and family members of Malcolm-Jamal Warner. I mean, this is a very tragic thing to happen. I was actually very startled, very surprised when I saw this report, considering he was relatively young when this happens. You just never know when your time is going to be, and things could just happen, very spontaneously, like in a flash. And I'm looking at Malcolm-Jamal Warner's chart. Well, first off, as far as, some, a natal placement, I mean, he does have Uranus in the fourth house of the end of life, which could indicate a very, sudden, it could be a sudden shocking, condition or situation at the end of life, or the end of life can be one that, that is very shocking and surprising. He had transit Pluto in Aquarius near the eighth house cusp at, the time of the passing. And, this could be, a death that could be very, shocking and sudden, but that shrouded. There may be some mystery that may be shrouded. This may be shrouded in too, because of this transit. Because you're talking about Pluto, which is mysterious, secretive, mysterious, being near the eighth house cusp of death, and being in Aquarius, again, something that could be very, shocking and surprising, something that happens, very suddenly. Now, I'm looking at something in the chart, and looking at this, the ruler of the 12th house, okay, that is Mercury. And that, in his chart, it conjuncts Pluto. 12th house is the house of drowning. And when you have the ruler, it's conjunct Pluto. It indicates that if the person is involved in a drowning incident, I would say could give a greater propensity toward passing. And Pluto is in the fourth house of the end of life as well. And, some other things, that I noticed in his, chart, having, the Aquarius on the eighth house cusp, could indicate a death that could be, right there just by itself could be very surprising and shocking. It falls, one of the rulers falls in the fourth house of the end of life. And the thing about, this is too, looking at, his chart, another thing, that stood out to me, he has Neptune in Scorpio. And it's conjunct the vertex, and I don't like to be, morbid or anything. I know, vertex is considered like an appointment of destiny. And the sad thing is that Neptune, even though being in Scorpio, even though it's generational, that could be like a death through drowning, because Neptune is connected with drowning. Scorpio is the sign associated with death. It's conjunct as vertex, and at the time, transit Uranus was at least loosely opposing his natal Neptune. And the fact tells me that, friends sadly were likely away and were not able to be, in a position to be able to save him. Maybe he was by himself when this took place, but again, I don't have the details surrounding Malcolm-Jamal Warner's, as far as the death connected with drowning. I don't have the details on it. I just know, the only thing I know so far is that he has drowned. This could have happened, I don't know, and I don't even have like the date when this actually happened, but it had to have been sometime fairly recently, whether I would say it likely happened today or yesterday, one way or another, and it was just something that was confirmed today. And another thing, looking at his chart, and I'm just trying to see if there's anything, that, as far as indicators that are connected, with his death, that may be, tied in with drowning. Well, the thing too is I see transit South Node not far from his Mercury, and South Node is what we're going away from. Mercury is connected with breathing, so it's not surprising there was an incident, that took place, which, he sadly, went away, where you weren't, he was sadly unable to breathe because Mercury again is connected with breathing. South Node is what we're going away from, and the fact, and this is, and you can, being in Virgo, I could see, the anxiety and the worry, apprehension that sadly that may have been tied in with this as well. And another thing, that I'm looking at is that, well, the ruler of his fourth house, which is Mercury, is in the third house. So in the fourth house, again, is the end of life. If this is in the third house, could this have happened? Maybe, is at a neighbor's place, or was he by, a sibling or a cousin, when this actually happened? Or what I'm saying is, was he at maybe a sibling's home? I'm thinking if he drowned, this either happened, I would say the percentages say this either happened, say, in a pool, or it could have been a bathtub, but again, we don't have, the details, surrounding, this matter. And the thing, too, is, I'm going to go, to some things, involving his natal chart, because again, he was a, very good actor. I believe he was in some other series recently. I don't know the name of it. He got, he was really, renowned for the Cosby, when he was on that Cosby show. That's where I think a lot of people remember him from, Sun and Leo, the basic, fundamental character one that was likely very flamboyant, gregarious, extroverted, showy, charismatic, generous, magnanimous person, that had, was chivalrous, had a lot of courage and fortitude. And the moon in Pisces, the unconscious side being one that may have been more sensitive, empathetic, compassionate, possibly even empathic, and intuitive, forgiving, may have been one that was a lot of, how it was very sacrificing. And having a Cancer ascendant, it's interesting because it's such a contrast from his Leo sun. Leo's sun, the true self being more flamboyant and extroverted, but the outer, side, the ascendant is, connected with the outer demeanor. It's the side that we project outwardly that is naturally expressed. May have been one that was actually more, introverted, introspective, more, more home, family oriented, more, just dominated by home and domestic matters, very, sympathetic, caring, dedicated, devoted, more timid, and introverted, when you're talking about Cancer rising, at least outwardly, and more sensitive than, the typical Leo sun, I would say, especially, having, even though, Leo sun generally, doesn't want others to, know when they're like, if their feelings are hurt, but having, Cancer ascendant and a Pisces moon, I would say that Malcolm-Jamal, Warner was somebody that, it was actually, showed a lot more sensitivity and emotion than the typical, Leo sun would. And, the thing is, I've noticed in charts, like when you have like, and I'm just talking about, when you have the sun, moon, or ascendant involved in an aspect. So in other words, if the ascendant, in this case, the ascendant trining his moon, when you have two of those energies in good aspect with each other, I notice that this often indicates that the person, has their life together for whatever reason. And with Malcolm-Jamal Warner having his moon in Pisces, making a trine to his Cancer ascendant, it tells me likely that he had his stuff together and he had a life where, when I say have this stuff together, and I don't know this for a fact, but I'm sure he likely had children and, family and, the wife, the whole kit and caboodle, had the good, house. And that's what I mean. I'm elaborating on what I mean by when somebody has their life, they have their stuff together, because you figure, in this case, the moon is connected with the home, the family, safety, security, the people you're close to home with, important, could be females, in that person's life. And then you have the trine to the ascendant, and the ascendant being, that outward projection of self, how you come across to others, first impressions, how people see you. So when you have that good aspect, between the moon and the ascendant, it can help in those matters in that, in this example. Now, and he also had most of his planets on the bottom half of the chart, and coupled with having a Cancer ascendant Pisces moon, Malcolm-Jamal Warner to me was somebody that likely, was more introverted and introspective than the typical, gregarious Leo sun. He probably actually was desired, to have a private life, at least to some degree. I understand he had a public life in a way because he was an actor. Leo being the sign of the actor, having Mars conjunct his sun in Leo, it added more drive and motivation in doing so. Now, so, I mean, it's really about, really what I wanted to touch up on, as far as Malcolm-Jamal Warner's chart, as far as, matters connected with his life and his death. And, again, I do offer, my prayers and condolences to the close friends and family members of Malcolm-Jamal Warner. I was very, shocked again when I saw this report. And, it seems like there's a lot of people in recent time that are passing away at a relatively young age, and it's just terrible that this is transpiring. And I do, I do hope that that Malcolm-Jamal Warner prayerfully is in a better place, at this point in time, and he's not, he's ascended to a higher plane. He may have left this mundane plane, but prayerfully he is at a higher plane. He's at he's resting in paradise at this point in time. And he may have passed away, but his legacy, I'm sure, will endure for a very long time. Rest in peace, Malcolm-Jamal Warner. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.